Will the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019, please come to order? For the benefit of those who may not have participated in a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. 1, the Secretary will read the legal call of the meeting as published in local newspapers. 2, the applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the Commissioners. 3, there will then be the opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. First, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and second, those who oppose the application will then be invited to come forward. As this is a public meeting, it must be recorded. It is necessary for speakers to identify themselves, state their name and address before addressing the Commission. 4, the applicant is then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing and the regular meeting, at which time the Commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this Commission and has the right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Seated this evening are the entire Planning and Zoning Commission. There's Sean Cosgrove on the end, Matt Yerzinski, Richard Wallace, Seinfeld Johnson, Frank DeAndrea, Alan Brown, Michael Basso, Jason Marchi, and Scott Edmond. Town staff is Aaron Mannix, Zoning Enforcement, and Lisa Pialvino, our Recording Secretary, and Peter Schultz is our videographer. Will the Secretary now read the legal notice?
Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019, 7:30 p.m. The location being the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut. Items to be received: Derek and Keoko Tomre, 104 Watering Pond Road, map 97, lot 35A-07, zone R8, special permit for structure over 750 square feet, section 273-94. Richard and Kathy Heffernan, 383 East River Road, map 75, lot 27B5, zone R5, special permit for accessory apartment dwelling, section 273-19. Town of Guilford Park and Rec Department, Chaffinch Island, Chaffinch Park, map 23, lot 5, zone R6. Coastal area management and site plan request to construct a 12 by 12 gazebo. Copies of these applications are available at the Office of Planning and Zoning, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. Dated this 28th day of March. Phil Johnson, Chair.
Oh. We'll go with the 3rd of April. Oh, the notice, okay. If anyone's here for Chaffinch Island, I'm just telling you that that application has been withdrawn, so we won't be hearing that, and it's not on our agenda for the future because it's been withdrawn. As I understand it, the Eagle Scout is proposing, I'm speaking just from hearsay, about building a bridge in Bittner Park. So hopefully that will be well received. So let's move to our first public hearing item. It is, yes.
383 East River Road, if anyone's here, that is continued rather than sitting through.
Okay, everyone good? So let's move to our first item, which is a continuation. James Goodman, 86 Middle Road, map 80, lot 37, zone R3, special permit modification for keeping of 15 additional pheasants, continued from 3/2019. Thank you. If you could again state your name for the record, that'd be great.
Thank you. I want to read. I'm James Goodman, 86 Middle Road. I'll give this one to you as soon as There's a big crowd up here. Dear Commissioners, officers, and fellow community members of Guilford, thank you all for your parts in this series of hearings. Officials will confirm that I have always treated them with respect, and I am maintaining my property in full compliance with all health, blight, and zoning ordinances, including existing special permit conditions. All standards applicable to non-commercial farms and non-commercial farm special permit conditions have been met, given this project can be absorbed into my existing structures without affecting my compliance to any of those ordinances or conditions. Every immediate neighbor but one has submitted they have no concerns about any potential impact on their property, and this does not pose any new threats to the public health or the environment. And lastly, but most dear to me, are the testaments to my character that not only will I diligently strive to maintain those standings, I desire to share my pheasant colonies and the knowledge I continue to gain about them with my neighbors, community, and its visitors. All of this is well documented in your files. Thank you all very much for your time, consideration, and dedication to my projects and the future of Guilford.
As I committed to everyone at our last meeting, we've done a lot of research, both with respect to the legal side of this and to the zoning side. And because I don't want to mess it up, I too will read a statement if that's all right.
Yeah.
Mr. Goodman, I've spent a considerable amount of time this week in communication with town's outside legal counsel and independently researching your application. Let me start by saying that I am very pleased that your birds are well cared for and that you complied with the requirements of the special permit. As you know, an appeal of our previous special permit was required to be made within Superior Court within 60 days of our granting the special permit. Obviously, that timeline has expired. As to whether or not this is a new application or an amendment of an existing special permit, there is one overriding criteria that must be met. The application needs to be materially different from the previous one. In fact, there's ample case law detailing that reversing conditions of a special permit is prohibited unless there has been a change in circumstance that materially affects the application. It is my opinion that the only change in your application from the previous application is a letter from the Agricultural Society. As we are a land use commission, our charge is to try and make sure that the use of your property is in harmony with the residential neighborhood. It's my feeling that the special permit allowing you to keep 16 pheasants was very reasonable, probably to the dismay of some of your neighbors. Other than the letter from the Agricultural Society, is there a material change from your original application to which you sought and which you now seek to keep 30 pheasants or 31 pheasants? So other than the letter, has there been a material change between the original application and this current one?
By like property size or?
That would certainly fall under one, but I didn't want to suggest.
No. A change in attitude about, I mean, during the first two hearings here, we were discussing pets, because at that time they were pets. Just changes of opinion that I garnered talking to the Agricultural Commission. The Connecticut Department of Agriculture got me more interested in the different kinds of pheasants that were involved in those, and taking the 15 birds at question here and not seeing them as much as pets as potential trades for raised pheasants. There's, a few others.
Any questions from commissioners? Are there any clarifying questions from the audience? Would anybody like to speak in favor of the application? Before I throw out the next statement, if you spoke about the application negatively in the past and you have something new to state, we'd love to hear it, but we really would appreciate if we don't have to run through the exact format of what we did at the last meeting. So with that said, would anyone like to speak against the application?
That is submitted in your packet from Charlize Colvert.
Brad, want to read it for us?
That should be submitted.
It's the last
Last page.
page in the packet.
Okay.
Yes, okay, so this is from Charlize Culvert, received on April 2nd, 2019. Dear Board, I spoke at the initial P&Z meeting regarding Jim Goodman's application for a variance to keep in residential zone to the pheasants that he already acquired. The residential zone is an established lake community with a resort-like atmosphere. At the time, I spoke to the fact that the Guilford Plan of Conservation and Development Update adopted July 15, 2015, had a goal to preserve, quote, preserve Guilford's character, culture, and scenic values, end quote. I felt and still feel that the variance since given to Mr. Goodman for 16 pheasants and structures to house them detracts from the character, culture, scenic values of Guilford Lakes Improvement Association, the GLIA. Additionally, the State of Connecticut Department of Agriculture Bureau of Regulation and Inspections report dated January 24, 2019, indicates at that time Mr. Goodman had 21 pheasants. This tells me that he was already out of compliance with the variance given to him. In the same report, Mr. Goodman states that the pheasants are bred, so that indicates to me that their numbers will increase each breeding season with or without a variance. Also, it states that the ones not kept for breeding are sold. So is this considered a business? If so, this would be the second business on his property. The other is his boat building business located inside what was once his living room. At the first meeting, Mr. Goodman stated that the pheasants were pets. Are the pheasants pets or livestock? Mr. Goodman's property is adjacent to a wet vacant lot that drains downhill into the stream that flows into the middle of the lake in the GLIA. These lakes and streams are at the head of the East River and flow into the Long Island Sound. Any runoff from the pheasants could possibly combine with any chemical residue flushed into the septic system. The website, www.goodmanboatbuilders.com, states, we laminate our production hulls using fiberglass cloth, chopped fibers, and various core materials all set in epoxy resin. Additionally, they are finished with Cabot Australian timber oil. Is this a concern to our ecosystem? Thank you for addressing all my concerns. I would have attended this evening's meeting, but I am out of the state this evening. Regards, Charlize Culvert, 195 Lakeside Drive. There's a couple questions in there.
Thank you for reading that.
No problem.
Any other questions from commissioners? What I would suggest is someone make a motion to amend our agenda so we can.
Unless anyone wanted to speak against.
I think I did that. Would anyone like to speak against the application? Sorry, we'll just have to check the tapes. Sir, check. Sure. Please come forward, Stitt. Okay, thanks.
My name is Herb Burstein. I live at 98 Lakeside Drive in the Guilford Lakes area. I have a question before I speak. I don't want to reiterate anything I said last 2 weeks ago. And then we focused on the so-called primary application rule. And I have two questions. First of all, is this the last time the public has an opportunity to speak to the matter? Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, when you spoke of material circumstances, it appeared to me, and I confess I had a little trouble hearing, you were really dealing with the legal opinion you received today. Is that correct?
It was not today, but I did.
Well, what you received it. Per that opinion, when will you decide whether the commission is going to continue to consider the matter? My understanding of the opinion is that essentially the attorney outlined the facts as he understood them, the law as he knows it, and said the judgment as to whether you continue is yours. Is that a basic understanding?
My hope was to close the public hearing, amend the agenda to move on this matter straight to the deliberations, and then hopefully seek a resolution for this application.
I had intended, and I know there are members who have not been here throughout. This is the fourth P&Z meeting I've attended relative to the matter. I attended 3 agriculture committee meetings. I would just very briefly like to reiterate a couple of things, the things we did not deal with 2 weeks ago, primarily for the benefit of those who haven't been with us throughout this 6-month ride. Let me remind you that the application originated because of a complaint by the Flammonds in May 2018. Didn't originate because the applicant was being a good citizen. Let me suggest a few of the inconsistencies we've had. This is kind of eked out over time. Last 2 weeks ago, I believe it was only when we asked about the application's use of the word pheasant rather than golden pheasants, the applicant's intent to house both types on his property became evident. The application never told us that, site plan never told us that. It just eked out. If we hadn't asked, I don't know where we would be on that matter today. Second, well, I'm not going to go back to the male-female mix. Let me point out in terms of breeding and hobby and pets that golden pheasants and silver pheasants commonly sell for $275 to $300 a pair on the market. And I'll submit material that speaks to that. And the hens lay quite a number of eggs. I won't go into that. Silver hens produce 5 to 15, golden somewhat less. So I wonder whether these are pets, as the applicant told you 2 weeks ago. He said they're pets, they have names, I named them all. I don't. The question of the site plan, I'm not sure why Ed Flammonde chose not to speak tonight. He shared correspondence with Aaron regarding what he thinks is an increase in water flow since these swales were initiated. He knows that. I don't know that.
I have had some preliminary discussions regarding that, and I don't believe that actually falls under our purview.
Well, I understand that, and staff has been wonderful throughout this. Aaron has been quite candid and responded to every question. Lisa, who was tired of seeing me at this point, and this should be the last time, has been wonderful as well. But regardless of responsibility, at this point, I have no idea whose responsibility it is and where one goes with this and doesn't go. But fundamentally, when I think about it, the absence of a professionally prepared site plan, and we know it is not inexpensive, gives rise to some of these things. It's the details that count. When Dennis Johnson prescribed swales, he didn't tell us how big. He didn't know anything about the contours. We told you in October of 2018, we provided material that said there was a 1 foot contour. We provided 1 foot contours from the state 2016 ortho flight. We showed you there was a 12% grade on the hill and there was a grade on the lot. I mean, the notion of water running down is not new. One thought about regulations, neighbors' comments. This isn't a popularity contest, you know that. You're essentially acting in a so-called administrative capacity tonight. You're interpreting our regulations. And the question of do no harm is kind of baked into those regulations. It's no wonder that the Flammonds have carried the ball on this application, opposing it. They are the only property, and we submitted photos to this back in October. They're the only property you can really see these apiaries. They share a 200-foot rear lot line. The other houses in the neighborhood, there's one house that I believe is 64 feet. We submitted material of this. The other houses all range upward from 94 feet to 195 feet. So they have every reason to be concerned about their property and their values and their impact. One question emerges in my mind, and this is the last point I would make. A close reading of the applicable section of the agriculture related zoning regulations, frankly, leaves me confused. It's left me confused throughout. The applicant is really here, as I understand it, and appeared in last fall because he didn't have an acre for a non-commercial farm, and he was seeking a judgment on your part that he could house animals, or in this case pheasants, on less than an acre, and obviously having less than a half acre of so-called pasture or open space, which is required. At the same time, you recognized that there was a per acre allocation regulation built in. One of the criteria, perhaps the foremost criteria that you discussed, is the notion of animals, or in this case pheasants, per acre. You received an Agriculture Commission recommendation which, per your regulation, said he's got about a third of an acre, so we suggest about 16 pheasants. It's as simple as that. The other matters, do no harm to water, do no harm to whatever, those are your judgments. But it was that basic per acre criteria that really applied. And you were simply saying, yeah, I think we can manage this on less than an acre. When I look at the regulation, it's anything but clear as to whether you can waive that element, that is the per acre criteria. You can make judgments relative to impact, relative to water, relative to whatever. But I would really encourage you, if you were to think hard, should you wind up considering the basic merits of the application as opposed to any legal principles involved tonight, think hard about whether that section says, allows you to vary the number per acre, or in this case 16. That is, I thank you for your time.
Would anyone else like to speak against the application?
Mr. Chairman, I just would like you to know I've submitted a staff memo today for the record, and I've attached the original special permit and the criteria for determining a special permit compliance, as well as the letter that I did receive on March 25th, dated March 23rd from Mr. and Mrs. Flamand, as well as my email correspondence with them, and also a copy of the legal opinion from our land use attorney, Chuck Andres, and the case of Faith Kilburn versus Planning and Zoning Commission of Town of West Hartford, which Chuck refers to in his memo.
Could you just make sure that those part of the legal record in the file?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm submitting.
That being said, and apparently no one else looking to speak, would someone like to make a motion to close?
So moved.
Mr. Goodman has any closing?
Oh, sorry. Do you have any
rebuttal to
final
any,
comments?
or to answer any of the questions?
Just one reaction to something that
You
Mr.
could-
Burzine said.
Sorry. It's actually not for the volume, it's for the television.
For the recording.
You know, for
Thanks.
star power.
Mr. Mr. Bernstein was asking about for some clarification of the pheasants versus the golden pheasants that I had originally applied for. And when the Agriculture Commission came through and viewed the property and they saw the way the birds were housed, the space that I could give them, and had decided to make it pheasants instead of, to change it to pheasants from golden pheasants. That was my original discussion with them.
Yeah, I reread the special permit, it just says pheasants.
So, just to clarify to him, I wanted, and to you, if this additional 15 pheasants were approved, it's my understanding that the 16 original birds, that would be held to golden pheasants. So I could have no more than 15 non-golden pheasants on site. And that
Thank you.
just so.
Is that right? So I have a motion to close. Does someone second? Okay, all in favor? Can I make a motion to amend the agenda and move straight to deliberation on this matter?
Second.
All in favor? Discussion? Someone want to start? You want me to start? I'm the boss, all right.
You're the boss.
Again, I have a lot of empathy for pets and pheasants and the keeping of it. I don't think we made a mistake on our original application, and I don't believe that there's a material change between the one that we received earlier and the one that we have in front of us now. Mr. Goodman actually pointed out the one material change I thought would actually be able to bring it to us, and that is if somehow the lot size were changed. But again, our job is to enforce the zoning code, and that's Aaron's job, but to, manage the harmony of the residential neighborhoods. I think we made an accommodation on the 16, and that's where I'm comfortable staying, but that's why you guys are all here. What do you think, Alan? Come on, jump in.
Well, I can appreciate that he is taking well care of them, and everybody's inspected it, and everyone says he's doing a great job. I truly believe he cares about the birds, but I have to look at the neighborhood. And I think if you got 16 birds, I can't say that's enough, that's not for me to say, but I would say this about that. If you want to go to double that amount or more, I'm having a little bit of a problem in the residential area because not many people came tonight to oppose it, but the last meeting they were here and they had their piece to say. They're not happy with it. And I can't really say that he says he has names for them. I can't picture 60 names for 60 birds, calling them their pets. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point is that the neighborhood is opposed to it. So I'm happy to leave it with 16, but I can't in my heart say yes for 60, not because he's not doing a good job, but because there's a lot of people in the neighborhood, and those people in the neighborhood, a lot of them, it's probably the largest investment they make in their life is in their house. And it's the kind of neighborhood, from what I heard, they're all friends. There's nobody that dislikes him. They just feel it's enough that we gave him 16. So I'm going to say I'm going to hang with 16.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, and, my review of the zoning regulations and whatnot, I thought we made a pretty good decision on the last one. I recognize that, I fully believe these are pets, and that I feel that the Ag Commission was talking about, was coming at it for more for the, whether it was viable for him to keep those pets in a safe and good treatment of those pets. They weren't necessarily having the purview that we have in terms of having to take into account the neighborhood, the zoning regulations, and so on and so forth.
I know you guys are both alternates, but your opinions are valued and I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I wanted to say that after reviewing some long legal documents in similar situations as this, that I don't feel, as we've discussed, we're discussing now, that there's been a material change to warrant reversing our decision, because that's what it would essentially be if we were to change something now and go with a larger number of birds. So I'm happy with the 16, and based upon our original decision also.
I would just have I'm not sure if Aaron can help out here, but a point of clarification. We referenced 16 birds. Charlize Culvert's letter states that the Department of Agriculture identified 21 birds as of January. So
There may have been birds brought in from off-site. I was not at that, I was not on site that day when they tested the birds, so I can't speak to whether or not
So I'm just
they
saying
were,
that 21 birds is not in compliance with
the number
the
16.
numbers that we
Correct.
granted in the
So
fall.
I'm not sure if there were 16 in the aviaries and the remaining birds that Mr. Goodman had off-site came onto the property for that testing. I can't speak to the detail of
Do we need to clarify that the only number of birds allowed on the property are 16?
that. That's correct. And I did I did an inspection in December and counted the birds. It was the time frame that was allotted to Mr. Goodman to reduce the number of birds and bring the property into compliance with a special permit, and I did go out and count the birds, and at that time, he was in compliance, and I issued him a certificate of zoning compliance for that. I have not been to the site to count birds, and I was not there on that day.
I think that, the original special permit that he issued has not expired yet. It expires on October 1st, 2028, and I think that would be a more appropriate time to revisit the issue. And so I'm comfortable with the original decision that we made, 16.
When you read your letter to Mr. Flamond, the statute that you cited, was there significant change in the property or status of the property, structures, increases, acreage? And the 21, or the 15 birds were predicated on the existing acreage of the property.
Right?
I unfortunately, on a personal level, would tend to side with Mr. Goodman, but I think that there's not enough adequate change to the circumstance on the special permit. And I think part of our job is also to look to decrease anything, not increase it on any type of nonconformity or anything like that. So as much as I would personally like to say yes, because he does a great job, and I couldn't do it. In this case, I won't support a motion for approval.
A second by statements.
Do you have a motion?
Yeah.
There are a few, depending on which way the commission would like to go, there are a few draft
To the end of your
at the
packets.
end of your package that you may
Okay. Would
wish
someone like to
to
make a
amend or...
I'll make a motion. Draft denial resolution, 86 Middle Road, Goodman, map 80, lot 37, zone R3, special permit to allow 15 additional pheasants. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission denies special permit application for James Goodman, 86 Middle Road, map 60, lot 37, zone R3, to allow 15 additional pheasants on property. Be it further voted that this denial is based on the fact that the additional information submitted to support this application does not constitute adequate change in circumstances to justify reconsidering the number of pheasants allowed at the site.
Second.
Discussion? I think we already did that.
Be it further voted then, I think, I don't know how necessary that is.
Okay? We good? Call the vote. All in favor of not approving the application? The application is denied. All right, next item on the agenda. Derek and Keiko Tamore, 101 Watering Pond Road, map 97, lot 35A, 07, zone R8, special permit, structure over 750 square feet, section 273-94.
Stand here, right?
Yeah, if you could state your name and address for the record,
Yes,
that'd be great.
sure. Dr. Derek Tomre, 104 Watering Pond Road, Guilford, Connecticut. Obviously, I'm here with my wife, Kayoko Tomre, and our builder, designer, Eric Hassel. So I guess you have received the packet. I would like to add one addition to this. It was requested by Aaron that there was a slight modification in terms of the plans, and so we had these drawn up today. And I have a copy here for this. It's basically of the site map, because there was some question regarding runoff from the water. So we basically consulted with Waldo and Associates, who have now addressed the issues, which was that. So let me sort of, can I stand in front of here? You can hear me. Oh, no. Maybe if I take the microphone? It's one of these things I can't really see what I'm pointing to.
Copies, if you want to throw a couple of them on.
She has the original, and then she can give copies, but it's basically up here. So this is obviously I think you know this, we're in R8. It's an interior lot. I've heard your discussion on setbacks. I'm one of now the 11 viewers here. And so it has a 50-foot setback all around the property. The request that we have, and you've seen the application, is for an accessory building, the dimensions of 1640 square feet. The accessory building consists of two parts, which should be the garage and the main structure. And I did provide documentation, as requested by Aaron, of a letter outlining what would be the proposed use and need for such a structure. I'm happy to go over any of these details with you and answer any of your questions. I respect your time, though, and I'll try to be concise. So there would be, there's the roadway there, a garage, and the structure. And that structure would have extra space, and then would actually later, if there is a subsequent application for a floral design, I should mention my wife is a floral designer, and basically provide some space for that. But right now, we're basically asking for the space for storage. And I'm happy to address any of the questions you might have from the beginning.
How many square feet is the building?
1640, I believe. 1,640, yes.
Heated?
The lot is, it's I don't know in square feet, but it's about 4.42 acres, I believe. So it's a large lot. And the square, right. And the square feet of the livable square feet is only 2,400 of the house. So it's a small amount that we can actually use. I should mention part of the usage. Would you like me to get into that, or as you like?
That would be the subject of a separate application.
Fine.
Right.
So right now, we're really
The
just...
staff memo.
Sure, absolutely.
I think that what I had said to Aaron is you could either do this once or twice.
I'd rather do it once.
I mean, you have to come back.
I have to come back for the other, right.
I think we can probably address the structural side,
Sure,
and then you can address the business side.
absolutely. However you'd like to do it. Yeah.
You pointed out possible driveways. Are you planning on actually building the driveway?
We have a main driveway. This is already here. There would be a little part of a road right there. And well, if it's possible, we would need to have access to that. Because it's right.
Yes, it is part of your application.
Yes.
To build a driveway.
Yes. That was put in by Waldo, you know. Yes.
And not that it's relevant one way or the other. Heated, not heated?
It's not heated. We're not requesting any heating. It's
So more of a seasonal?
seasonal, yeah.
No utilities.
Utilities, yes. We would like to get,
Electric.
and we will discuss later, a subsequent data about water, but that's for later.
The original application showed this workshop area for a floral design, including a half bath out there. And as staff had explained to Mr. and Mrs. Tumray, that the actual floral business would be considered a home handicraft business. Since it's in a detached structure, it would require an additional special permit application. Since that was not advertised and submitted in time, they've removed that portion from the application. They also removed the restroom and water facilities, as there are some engineering details that need to be worked out with the health department on that. So those would come in a subsequent application. So at this point, it's just an unfinished storage area with a two-car garage.
That we want to get built.
Yes.
So it's before you because it's over 750 square feet for an accessory structure.
So there's a couple letters, let me read them real quick for you. One from Dennis Johnson, Director of Health, dated April 3rd. The applicant's proposed garage storage shed location will not conflict with the location or operation of the septic system currently serving the existing house. We have one from Aaron Mannix, our zoning enforcement officer, on April 3rd, also 2019. The subject property at 104 Watering Pond Road is an interior lot improved with single-family dwelling. It's located in an R8 residential zone. The applicant is proposing construction of a 1,630 square foot detached accessory structure on the property. The proposed building complies with required bulk standards. Initially, the property owner proposed to have the building contain two-car garage, craft area, half bath, and storage room. The plan has since been modified only to include a garage, unfinished storage at this time. Any future plans to finish the space or install running water on restaurant facilities will require additional review and permits. Due to the ledge and topography of the site, the increased stormwater will be managed by stone trenches along the drip line of the roof.
These are indicated here and basically.
Correct. Here's a copy if you want, so that you can have those reports. Sure.
Any questions?
Lot's plenty big enough.
Yeah, lots. I'm assuming it checks all the boxes in terms of setbacks, et cetera?
Yes, there's a 50-foot minimum setback for both main structure and accessory structures on an interior lot.
The setback is indicated right here.
Okay.
That's 50, and that's, I think, 62, and that's well over 150 or so.
Yeah, let me just run through the technical side first. So, are there any clarifying questions from the audience? Not that there's a lot of people left in the audience. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like, I'm wasting good oxygen, aren't I? Would anyone like?
Could, but I think it was your point of speaking.
Would anyone like to speak against it? Would anyone like to make a motion to waive the second public hearing with respect to this matter?
I'll make the motion to waive the second public hearing. Second.
Discussion? I mean, it's a pretty straightforward application. So I'll call a vote on waiving the second public hearing. All in favor? So, just as a point of clarification, we typically require two public hearings, but by a supermajority, we can waive the second one if applicable.
Great.
Fairly straightforward. So, if you could read, someone want to make a motion to approve, that would be great.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves a special permit application for Derek and Kyoto Tomori.
Tomry, but nobody gets it right ever. It's really, and
My
it's okay.
apologies. 104 Watering Pond Road, map 97, lot 35A-07, zone R8, for construction of accessory structure over 750 square feet, referring section 273-94, as shown on the following set of plans. Boundary stakeout stretch property of Derek and Kyoto Tomry, 104 Watering Pond Road, Guilford, Connecticut, by Waldo and Associates, LLC, professional engineers and surveyors, 89 State Street, Guilford, Connecticut, dated November 13, 2018, and dated revised April 3, 2019. Building and elevation plan, and building elevation and floor plan for 104 Watering Pond Road by Derek and Keoko, received by P&Z Commission dated 2/27/19, revised 4/3/19. Be it further voted that this application is approved with the following conditions. That it conforms with the zoning code. Okay.
Are there any other conditions that,
Does anybody
then that's,
wanted to add
so
anything?
we have a motion, would someone like to, second? Discussion? We had a dual second, but that's okay. Discussion, I mean, I think it's great. You know, it's terrific. I have a garage similar to that, and it's terrific. It's a great commute.
My question is, can we like put in electric, even though it's considered unfinished? I mean, is electric part of
Sure.
finishing, or is that?
Sure.
So we can wire it,
Mhm.
so we can have a garage door.
Right, as long as you get your building
Yeah.
permits for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Unfinished garages have electricity, yes.
So we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. All in favor? Have fun.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So Richard and Kathy Heffernan has been, do we have to make a motion to continue? Or was it just been continued?
Sure, you can motion, that's
Someone like to
fine.
make a motion to continue?
I'll move to continue it to 4/17/19.
Have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Withdrawn, this is the Chaffinch Island. So let's move to the Town of Guilford Bus Yard, 131 Hubbard Road, map 79, lot 9-2B, zone R5, site plan to allow construction of an 8x12 storage shed. Are they not here?
May not be here, but they did present at the last meeting, and I can show you their plan.
Back at the last meeting or something?
Correct. I'm just
Please
going
come
to
state
pass
your
it
name and
along.
direct.
I'll show you their revised plan. This little yellow highlighted space here. Originally, the shed was proposed right at the fence line on Hubbard Road, and that does not meet the setback, and so they're going to slide it back closer to the trailer. And you requested at your last meeting that it be shown on a site plan, so that that can be,
So is that, with it
this is,
moved, it complies?
yep,
That's what we
this
need to
yellow
setback.
complies with your 50-foot required setback.
Anything else we need to be reviewing for a site plan modification?
Nope. It meets the requirements, the commission shall approve. Or setbacks.
So would someone like to make a motion to approve the revised site plan?
I'll make a motion. Let it be voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve an application for a site plan by the town of Guilford for property located at 131 Hubbard Road, map 79, lots 9-2B, zone 1-2, for the installation of an 8-foot by 12-foot storage shed as shown on plan entitled, quote, proposed fuel storage tank upgrade, Guilford bus parking lot, Guilford, Connecticut, unquote, by Diversified Technology Consultants, Hamden, Connecticut, dated 12/3/2013, hand revised by Specialty Transportation Incorporated on 3/21/19 to show shed location overlay. Be it further voted that this plan complies with all applicable sections of the zoning code of the town of Guilford. Be it further voted that the effective date of this approval shall be April 12th, 2019.
Thank you. Someone like to second that?
Second.
Discussion? Pretty straightforward site plan stuff. I'll make a call to vote. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Applications to be received, coastal area management site plan, Frank Galileo, 100 Deepwood Drive, map 16, lot 102, zone R5, coastal area management for additions to single-family residence within 100 feet of critical coastal resource. That would be the end of applications to be received.
Motion to receive.
And then, next item on the agenda, as required by our bylaws, in the first meeting of April, we are to have election of officers. I asked Jason and Michael to contact everyone to get their opinions and their feedback, and then propose a slate of officers for the coming year. So we'll kick the floor back to you, listen to what you have to say, and we can discuss and
Michael and I talked, and I think, Frank, you are vice chair now, but were you interested in stepping down from that position?
I would.
Okay.
You okay with it?
Okay, and then,
And then I'd ask Matt if he would, but if you wanted the vice chair, but I think discussing, because you were new,
yeah, fairly new and green as it might be, or so, and so if you look at a sort of a seniority basis of others who have also interest in the vice presidency or vice chair position, that our discussion resulted in that Richard would be interested in that.
would you take secretary?
And, yeah, that way we'd keep a Republican.
Yeah.
Having to serve the commission
And it would be a good step up for you to to start there and work your way up, kind of thing.
A lot more FaceTime.
Yeah.
That's what we came up with.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to be secretary.
That would be great.
So how do you want to vote? I have that, that's number 2.
If you would make a motion, that would be great.
Okay, I would like to make the following motion for appointment of the Planning Zoning Commission officers for the 2019-2020 one-year term. Voted that the commissioners of the Planning and Zoning, I can't even read it. That the commissioners of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve the following slate of officers for a one-year term of 2019/2020 as follows. Phil Johnson to remain as chair, which he was very willing to do. Richard Wallace moving into vice chairman position, and Matthew Yorzinski taking the position of secretary. So I make that proposal.
I'd like to second that.
Second.
Call the vote. All in favor? Anyone against? Anyone abstain? Thank you. I have had a chance to review the minutes, and they seemed substantially correct. Someone? All in favor? With no, okay. With no further business at hand, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much. See you in a couple weeks.
All right. Painless.